Hello. In this video, let's try to discuss about holozoic mode of nutrition in human. Nutrition is one of the key terms here in this topic. So nutrition is process of intake of food and utilization or using of the ingredients of the food for carrying out different life processes. We are breathing, we are able to undergo different life processes like excretion, transportation or circulation. So every processes which are acting in our system which makes ourselves alive, all these processes are possible only after eating food. So nutrition is essential process which is mainly about ingestion, taking in of food and using of food components for deriving energy for carrying out different life processes. So we human follow holozoic mode of nutrition, and this topic is one of the subtopic which is discussed in the chapter 5, that is life processes. Now to understand the human nutrition, let's first discuss about human digestive system. Human digestive system is mainly composed of alimentary canal or gut, the tube through which the food passes. The tube is not uniform. It may be having bulging organs, it may be having different structures. So from mouth to anus, food passes and breaking down of digestion of food occurs. So alimentary canal or gut is the tube or channel through which the food passes. It starts from mouth and ends at anus. It is also associated with the glands, so which are essential for releasing digestive enzymes or digestive juice. We have salivary glands, we have liver, the largest gland, and pancreas, a compound gland, exocrine gland as well as endocrine gland. Now let's see the simple diagrammatic representation of human digestive system. Our digestive system, the gut starts with an opening outside, that is mouth, through which we take in food. And inside the mouth we have mouth cavity or oral cavity. And in the oral cavity we receive saliva, the secretion of salivary glands, which may be parotid or cheek salivary glands, and we have submaxillary salivary glands and sublingual salivary gland. Now next to the oral cavity, at the junction between the meeting point of nasal cavity, the cavity which is found next to the nostrils, two opening in the mouth, two opening in the nose. So the pharynx is Y-shaped, funnel-shaped structure, which is the junction between the nasal cavity and oral cavity. Now next to the pharynx, as the food passes through our gut, we have a unique structure which is covering the respiratory system, windpipe. So trachea is called as windpipe. Now the opening of the trachea is also exposed to pharynx. There is possibility of entry of food into the respiratory system, which will be a problem for us. So we usually have a structure, a cartilaginous structure called epiglottis. Glottis is the opening of windpipe. So to cover it, we have a flap-like structure, a covering which is made up of cartilaginous cartilage, and that is called as epiglottis. Now to understand this, let me show you this picture. So in this picture you are able to see a tiny structure which is covering the windpipe, and the food passes through esophagus. As the food passes, there is a structure which is covering the windpipe, so that food passes through esophagus, and that structure is made up of cartilage and it is called as epiglottis. As the food passes through the after pharynx, we have another passage for food, that is esophagus. Esophagus is a tube-like structure which is muscularized, having muscles in ring shape or sphincter muscles. Now, at the end of the esophagus, we have a circular muscular structure that is called as gastroesophageal sphincter, which regulate the passage of food into the stomach as it comes from the oral cavity. And we have stomach, where the digestion of proteins occur first. The acidic medium is found in stomach. At the end of the stomach, we have pyloric sphincter, a ring-like muscle which regulate the flow of food in the stomach into the small intestine. After the stomach is joined with duodenum, the starting of small intestine, and into the duodenum we receive bile juice from liver. Bile juice is usually stored in gallbladder for a while. We also receive secretion of, now jejunum is part of small intestine, and that is the middle portion of the small intestine. We also have pancreas. I think I've forgotten to mention here. We also have pancreas, which secretes pancreatic juice into the duodenum or into the small intestine. Now, jejunum is the middle portion of the small intestine, and there is another highly coiled structure of small intestine that is called as ileum. Next to the ileum, there is the junction between small intestine and large intestine, that is called as cecum. We also have vermiform appendix. Vermiform appendix is a vestigial organ which is not having much function in our digestive system, but it do have some function, some role in immunity. Then starts the large intestine. Large intestine is having cecum and colon. Cecum is pouch-like structure which is connecting small intestine and large intestine. And after cecum we can find ascending colon. Ascending here refers to the large intestine that is usually arranged upward our body. And we have transverse colon, which is usually in the transverse or horizontal, arranged in horizontal manner. And then we have the descending colon, the large intestine which is usually downwards, directed downwards. And we have rectum, which is for storage of food, undigested food or waste for a while. And lastly, we have the last opening called anus. So in this diagram I've forgotten to mention pancreas, so kindly remember this. Now with this we have understood the organization of human digestive system, general organization. We are not discussing in detail. So you have to try to remember these different parts of human digestive system. Now it's important for us to understand the main steps of holozoic mode of nutrition. Let me, you all know that, but let me review once. First step of holozoic mode of nutrition is ingestion. Ingestion is process of intake of food into the cell or body. Second, digestion occurs. Digestion is process of breaking down of large food substances into simpler forms which are absorbable for our body. Third, we have absorption. Absorption is process of distribution of food substance, ingredients in the food into the cell of amoeba, or it is passing of nutrients through the small intestine into our blood. Then fourth, we have assimilation. Assimilation is using of the absorbed nutrients for carrying out different life processes, whether it be for deriving energy or for growth and repair. And lastly, we have digestion. Waste or undigested food are removed by a process called digestion. Now, to discuss about the digestion in human, we have to understand the components of food. The main components of food are carbohydrate, proteins, fats, vitamins, and minerals. Without water, then there is less possibility of occurring different metabolic processes. Water is also essential for preventing dehydration, preventing loss of water. So these major components of food are essential for our development, for our life processes, for survival of us, for smooth functioning of our system. And water is also essential. Now, digestion. So digestion is a process of conversion of complex food substances or biomacromolecule into simpler observable form. And human digestion is a mechanical process as well as it is a biochemical process. Mechanical process, why? Because of muscles are usually helping the digestion, especially the muscles in the esophagus. Peristaltic movement or peristalsis is occurring, which is pushing the food down the alimentary canal. Biochemical, there are because of involvement of enzymes, different juices, digestive juice are involved in breaking down of food. Now let's discuss digestion in human in stepwise manner. First we'll discuss about digestion in mouth, then in stomach, then later on we'll discuss about digestion of food in small intestine, and lastly we'll discuss about the final step, that is digestion. Now, mouth is for us to take in food. If you observe your own mouth, you are able to see teeth. Teeth is mainly for chewing, for grinding the food, for cutting the food, for biting the food, for making the food into pieces. We also have muscular structure called tongue. Tongue is important. It is usually for tasting, for rolling the food whenever we are eating, for mixing the food with the saliva. Tongue is also essential for moistening the food, and it is very important for swallowing the food. Now, so teeth and tongue are very important parts in oral cavity. So without proper teeth, we can't digest food properly. So most important, one of most important parts in digestive system is teeth. Without teeth, there is no proper digestion. Now in the mouth, in the oral cavity, digestion, 30% of the carbohydrates are digested. Say like usually carbohydrates are in complex form, polysaccharide. Poly means many, saccharide here refers to glucose or carbohydrate. So starch is a complex complex carbohydrate which is usually digested or broken down in mouth with the help of salivary amylase. Amylase enzymes are active at pH of 6.8 and temperature of 37 degrees Celsius. On action of salivary amylase, there is breaking down of starch into disaccharide. Disaccharide like maltose. Starch is being broken down into maltose. Now, with this we had discussed about digestion of carbohydrate, which is starting in mouth. Now what about the proteins, what about fats and other components of food? These are not digested in mouth, but the main digestion occurring in mouth is carbohydrate. Now after the digestion of food inside the mouth, the food is called as bolus. Now bolus passes into the esophagus by a special process called peristalsis or peristaltic movement. What is peristaltic movement? You can clearly see with the help of this picture, there is contraction and relaxation of muscles in the esophagus, and then the food passes into the stomach. So before passing the food into the stomach, there is successive waves of contraction and relaxation occurs. Muscles contract to push the food downwards through the esophagus, and again the muscles relax. In that manner the food is passed into the stomach. So peristalsis is movement of is successive waves of muscular contraction and relaxation, so that food passes into the stomach. Now let's discuss about digestion in stomach. Usually inside the stomach we have many glands which are collectively called as gastric glands in the stomach, and these different gastric glands secrete different juice or enzymes, different gastric juice, and those juice are collectively called gastric juice. So gastric juice may be pepsinogen. We also have hydrochloric acid, which is making the stomach acidic medium, and it is also helping in killing off harmful pathogens, harmful microorganisms. Stomach is also having goblet cells which secrete mucus. Mucus is mainly for protection of inner linings of the stomach from hydrochloric acid. The hydrochloric acid which is secreted in the stomach is about pH of 1.8, highly concentrated. So to protect it, protect the inner lining of the stomach, we have mucus. Mucus is also helping in bringing together of food substances. Now, pepsinogen, which is secreted by peptic cells, are inactive forms, or these are proenzyme. These are not active enzymes. These will be converted into active enzymes called pepsin by hydrochloric acid, HCl. Pepsin will be breaking down proteins into proteases and peptones. Now, with this, we have discussed about starting of digestion of protein, starting of digestion of proteins in stomach. Sorry for the disturbance. Digestion of proteins in stomach. Proteins are started digesting in stomach. So proteins will be broken down into proteases and peptones. Proteases and peptones are simpler forms of proteins and which are digested by pepsin. So these are a brief idea about digestion in stomach, which are enough for you to write down in your exam, and these are enough for our own understanding. Now, digestion in intestine, small intestine. Small intestine is having its own secretion called intestinal juices or succus entericus. Along with that, it also receives digestive juice or enzymes from liver and pancreas. Liver secretes bile juice, and pancreas secretes pancreatic juice, which is having many other juice, many other enzymes in it. So first discuss about bile juice. Bile juice is secreted by liver, and our liver is the largest gland. Liver usually releases bile juice. Bile juice activate lipase. Lipases becomes active on secretion of bile juice, or bile juice is directly helping in breaking down of fats into fat globules. So usually bile juice is helping in activation of lipases, and lipases acts on fats into fat globules. So breaking down of fats into simpler form of fats, say fat globules, is known as emulsification of fats. Emulsification, to make it more clear, I would say it's breaking down of fats into very small micelles. Micelles are tiny fat globules, tiny fat molecules which are surrounded by water. Fats are usually having hat and tail, right? So hat portion of the fats exposed to water and form tiny molecules, tiny fat globules. So those tiny fat globules are called as micelles. Now, emulsification is breaking down of fats into simpler fat molecules or micelles. So with this, we have understood the bile juice, which is essential in activation of lipase. Bile juice is also essential for maintaining alkaline condition, basic medium in case of small intestine. The food that is there in the mouth is usually the food in the stomach is acidic. Food in the stomach is called chyme, which is acidic, and on moving through the conveying the food, passing the food through the small intestine, bile juice creates a basic medium, non-acidic basic medium, alkaline medium is created. Now we say that small intestine also receives pancreatic juice. So pancreas is essential for release of pancreatic juice. Pancreatic juice are of many. For example, trypsinogen, which is producing trypsin. So trypsin is produced from trypsinogen with the help of enterokinase. So trypsin acts on proteins to form peptones and proteose, simpler forms of protein. We also have lipase, which are present in pancreatic juice. Lipase is essential in breaking down of fats into fatty acids and glycerol. Fatty acids and glycerol are the simplest form of fats. So fatty acids and glycerol are formed by action of lipase on fats. Bile juice helps in activation of lipase. We also have salivary, this is wrong, totally wrong. I think pancreatic amylase. I should write pancreatic amylase. I've written here wrong. Pancreatic we have discussed about pancreas releasing pancreatic juice. Pancreatic juice is having trypsin, having lipase, and we also have pancreatic amylase. Why again there is saliva? That's wrong. So sorry for the disturbance, for inconvenience. Yes. Now another enzyme that is found in pancreatic juice in addition to trypsin and lipase is pancreatic juice. Pancreatic juice is active at pH of 6.8 and temperature of 37 degrees Celsius. So pancreatic juice acts on polysaccharides like starch. These are also acting on other usually starch. So starch broken down into maltose and form disaccharide. Disaccharide here refers to having two glucose unit or having two carbohydrate monomers. So with this we have understood the digestion in small intestine in brief manner. The main secretion of small intestine in the small intestine are bile juice and pancreatic juice. Bile juice is helping in activation of lipase, which is helping in emulsification of fats. Emulsification of fats here refers to breaking down of fat into simpler fat substances or simpler form of fats. And pancreas releases pancreatic juice, which is composed of different pancreatic juice, trypsin, lipase, amylase. Now, with this, in the small intestine, digestion of carbohydrate, proteins, and fats occurs. And it's important for us to understand pancreas as compound gland. Pancreas is called compound gland because of it is exocrine gland as well as it is endocrine gland. Endocrine gland are also called as ductless gland, and exocrine glands are called as ductile duct glands. Ductile. So exo refers to external. So usually the secretion of pancreas, we have pancreatic juice, which is secreted outside the bloodstream, not inside the internal part of our body. So pancreatic juice is secreted into the duodenum or small intestine through hepatopancreatic duct, and being secreted into the small intestine, pancreas is called as exocrine gland. Okay, these are pancreatic juice is secreted through a pipe or through a duct. So these are duct glands. In case of pancreas as endocrine gland, they secretion, say like mostly hormone, insulin, glucagon, these are secreted directly into the bloodstream. Bloodstream is internal part of our body. So endocrine glands usually secreted they secretion into the internal part of the body, that is blood, and there is no duct in the blood, there is no pipe in the blood, tube in the blood. So hormones are secreted directly into the hormones which are secreted so hormones are usually secreted directly into the blood, and so there is no duct to pass hormones. So pancreas is exocrine gland. It is secreting pancreatic juice, which are creating an alkaline medium in the small intestine. So pancreas is exocrine gland mainly because of it is secreting pancreatic juice into the hepatopancreatic duct and then into small intestine. Pancreas is endocrine glands because of it is secreting hormones like insulin and glucagon directly into the bloodstream, not through a pipe. Now let's try to understand absorption of food inside our body by small intestine. Absorption here refers to movement of nutrients, components of food into our blood through small intestine. And in the small intestine, if you observe, there are many finger-like projections which are lined inside the internal lining of small intestine, and those are called as villi. Small intestine is usually a pipe-like structure which is having hollow cavity called lumen, and it is vascularized vascularized here refers to having blood vessels which are surrounding the small intestine. It is having many layers, layer of muscles, different muscles are layered. And now if we observe the internal lining of small intestine, then you are able to find tiny finger-like projections. This is one finger-like projection. We have another smaller finger-like projection, small and other finger-like projection. These finger-like projections are called as villi. Now if I zoom in this small portion of villi, then you are able to see a structure like this. This is the internal lumen, the cavity which is seen here. So after zooming in, we have seen villi in little detail. In villi we are able to find lacteals, which are large lymph vessels. We also have blood vessels. Blood vessels are receiving nutrients which are present inside, already digested and present inside small intestine, which passes through the villi. If you zoom in and observe, if you observe the structure of villi, then you are able to see many cells which are lining the villi, and those cells are usually made up of epithelium, and these are also having tiny hair-like structure called microvilli. So whatever food already digested and present inside the small intestine will be moving through the villi into the blood, and that is called as absorption. And absorption in small intestine occurs with the help of finger-like projections or finger-like protrusions, finger-like structures called as villi. Now, what are the functions of large intestine? We haven't discussed, but it is an important part in digestive system. Usually large intestine helps in absorption, reabsorption of water, minerals and some drugs which are there inside the small large intestine, but there is no absorption of food, major components of food, right? And it is also, large intestine is also secreting mucus, which helps in bringing together of undigested food, combining together of undigested food, and mucus also helps in lubrication or smooth flow of undigested food. Now finally, let's discuss about digestion. Digestion in large intestine, digestion of undigested food occurs through anus. We remove our fecal matter or feces, undigested or unabsorbed substances, through a process called defecation, and undigested food or waste are removed by anus, and these are temporarily stored in a structure called rectum. So rectum is the structure which is storing the undigested food temporarily, and finally digested or removed out through a structure called anus. You should try to answer these questions. Sorry for so many disturbance. So first question is, name the mode of nutrition in human. Second, list the 5 major steps of nutrition in human. Draw a well-labeled diagram of human digestive system. Without drawing, you won't be able to understand digestive system. If you are not able to understand human digestive system, it's difficult for you to understand the process of digestion. Fourth, discuss the digestion in mouth, stomach and intestine separately in human. Fifth, explain term emulsification. Sixth, which part of the small intestine helps in absorption of digested food? You know that, right? We have discussed in the second last slide. Seventh, which organ of digestive system receives undigested and unabsorbed substances? Lastly, you have to state whether it's true or false. No significant digestive activity occurs in the large intestine. You have to state whether it's correct or not. You can also give a reason for that. So with this, thank you. Sorry for many disturbance. now I don't have any much thing to say. Thank you.